Why is this person liking this record? Why is this person playing this record? Is it because they like it? Or is it because they're so disgusted and they can't believe that it's like a car wreck and they can't believe that this is what's happening and they're just in disbelief and they're sharing it with their friends because do you see this craziness? Do you see this nonsense? Look what's happening to society. You believe this and then they share that. I can't believe this. Oh my God, this is horrible. Let me share this with this person. And then it becomes popular, but it's not popular because people love it and enjoy it, embrace it. It's popular with 1 million views and it's shared because it's freaking trash.
Arkatech Beatz.
What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, Platinum Producers. Arkatech Beatz, I'm Juggernaut.
I am Mike Trauma D.
Every week we get together and we share different things about the music industry so that you don't have to go through the music industry headaches that we went through. We've been bringing on special guests lately, and we're going to be bringing on more special guests to basically give you more insight to what the game is and what you can really expect from this music industry game. Mm-hmm. So, I was going through, you sent me some footage from Joe Budden's podcast that he was reading a tweet from Ray Daniels, who's basically a music industry veteran, and he was talking about the age of the winners at the Grammys, right? Who got the best rap album at 48 years old, best new artist at 34-year-old singer, songwriter of the year is 41 years old. And he was going into saying that artist development has to come back to music. It's like we have been thinking that this is a young man's game or a young person's game because of the advent of social media. And for whatever reason, people were gravitating away from artist development and let people just kind of do what they could because you could put your music out on demand. So I guess I wanted to get your feedback, being one of the A&Rs from one of those labels that really changed the culture and where artist development was really honed at and being around a lot of music folks. So let's get into that. Let's see let's see where it goes.
I've always said there was an importance for artist development. This is a business, and when you're putting out product that's supposed to compete, you want to ensure that you're putting out the best product. And one of the things to do that is to ensure that you sit down with these artists and you work with them and you make sure that they're ready to be put out into the market. Whether it's, the look, whether it's, the way they act and behave in the public, the music, of course, beat selections, what they're saying, there needs to be some sort of grooming so that when you're in the public eye and you got millions and millions of dollars of marketing dollars behind you, be putting out the best work to compete. Because, these record labels want to make sure that they receive their ROI, And, as an artist, when you're taking the time to make yourself better all across the board, whether it's the way you look, the way you present yourself, the way you dress, the way you rhyme, you sing, you write, you produce, when you do those things, you create value. You also push the culture forward. You inspire the next person to step their game up as well. And unfortunately, we're not having any of that these days because what I'm seeing is just the removal of the gatekeepers, the removal of artist development, because the labels are looking for a quick flip. And the culture definitely suffers. Music suffers. The things that we're seeing visually or the things we're hearing is just suffering. We're not getting quality content.
I think that you're spot on. It's been something that we've been talking about for I would say the last 2 years, right? Where we've been just saying like the quality of music degrades. Where's the gatekeepers? Where's the A&Rs? Where's the artist development? Everything can't be based on this artificial influence of social media. Everything can't be based off of if this person just got all these likes and views and stuff. Like this stuff can be fabricated, and people were looking at these things and we're trying to use these as barometers for, I guess, readiness or marketplace readiness.
But what happens when you go to the show and there's nobody there?
Yeah. It was a lot of different things that we were looking at, man. Like, we're just looking at this situation. But when I see this and they keep saying that, hey, artists can do it all by themselves and so forth and so on. And I guess it's really just not true. It's not true. It's like, where are the professionals that have to support this situation? But I think also what's happened is that the industry has become so toxic for a lot of us. And the artists have become toxic in some case. Like, we've been in situations where we were trying to support certain artists, but the artists were so negative, or the artists were still 1 foot in the street, 1 foot, doing whatever they were doing. And you didn't want to be around that as an older person who's used this business to come away from that, because we're all from the inner city. We're all from urban areas. So we don't really want to be sucked back into it, even though we may have the expertise to move these folks to a different level.
Right.
So we trying to stay away from all of that. Like, we don't want to be surrounded by that type of energy, right? So a lot of times we're trying to school these artists, but they're falling on deaf ears because they really just feel like this is the path, or this has been working for me on socials. But what's working for you on socials is a long way from really working, in the marketplace where you could really sell something, sell tickets, sell clothes, sell albums, really build a community. Like, that takes a different skill set.
Yeah. It definitely brings a false sense of reality, with the likes and the views. It doesn't always equate to actually what is, and, some of these artists see these things and they get a false sense of accomplishment, like they're this and they're that, and then when it comes down to it, you can't sell out a show. You can't pack a 200 person night at a club, and that's because you have this false sense of what is, because of social media and these likes and the bot game, and all these things that's going on. And it's you're drinking your own Kool-Aid, and it's a situation.
Cyanide Kool-Aid at that.
Yeah, and the gatekeepers, the A&Rs, those were the guys that would say yes and say no. Those were the guys that would say, no, this isn't good enough. At least the good A&Rs.
Yeah. Those
are the guys that said they didn't sit at the desk, and they didn't. I'll tell you this, the A&Rs that I come from, shout out to Scott Free and Matty C. These were the type of A&Rs that sat in the office all day, and Steve Rifkin will tell you that, they hardly at the office. They'll tell you the office was in the streets. Like, we were out. We were out. We were at the shows. We were in the studios. We were meeting and greeting. We were in the trenches. We were here and there, just looking around, experiencing what's going on in the environment. The last place we wanted to be was in the office. The offices was just, numbers and a place where we came back to meet up and play what we found and, compare notes and listen to this. It was just almost like a post office in a sense, But, right now, the A&Rs of today, or the people who's in charge of that department, it's just they're sitting at the desk all day, just looking at numbers and data and trying to to use numbers to try and figure out what's a hit. They're trying to use these things to figure out, okay, how can we get the best return of our investment? If this artist has this amount of views, maybe this equates to this type of sales, and they're just trying to figure it out on that level. And that's not always the case, you know.
So what I would say is that it doesn't sound like a hit, doesn't feel like a hit, because that's what we used to go off of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it sound, does it feel like a hit? Does it look like a hit? What we're trying to do is we're trying to find data to support interest, to support potential sales outcome. So we're trying to look for a different type of situation to determine what's a hit versus us looking at a song and saying, can't you feel how that feel when that play? Or, you know, like this, do you hear how this person spit on that? Do you hear that cadence? Do you hear that the way that horn is going? Do you hear the way those 808s are rattling your back? You know what I'm saying? Like this is a situation that I really hate to see this, because it's like the folks who were the real music men that brought us some of the most legendary artists that you can't go to a club and not get played today still, 20, 30 years later. These guys are absent in the music business.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the other day I've heard even not just the executives, the artists as well. And there's a lot of layers to this and a lot of directions we can go with this, because it felt really good to hear, for example, Killer Cam, rapping with on the Swiss Beats. It feels good to hear those vintage feeling records, and they sounded good. They didn't sound dated, you know. And these guys, you got to look at these guys' age. You know, they're not in their 20s. You know, so there is a value for artists of that age. There's a value for, you know, coming up underneath the gatekeepers, the A&Rs. You know, there's a value in all of these things, because even at 30 plus, 40 plus, 50, even 50 plus years old, you know, those lessons, those things have groomed you in such a way that you can really still put out music, and you will still follow those teachings, those things that got you the success that you got. You know, those are like tried and those are lessons that are learned. You know, so you know there's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of layers to just, you know, the 40 plus year olds, you know, getting the awards, getting all these accolades. You know, is it still a young person's game? Was it ever was?
That's the question. And then the other thing, when we talk about maybe like the Grammy type of situation, I don't think the young people are participating in it. I don't think they care about it, because remember, the Grammys is still an invitation only type of situation. So it's not like,
I don't even think they know what it is, to be honest.
Right. I don't think a lot of them care about it. Yeah. So the voting population wouldn't comprise of young people, right? That's true. Let's just be honest about that. But when I look at this situation and I say, I go, man, like I look at this age and these different, basically the average here look like it's no younger than about 35, right? That's the average, right? Give or take. If we take all of these wins. But it's like, okay, that would comprise of what the Academy is in terms of how old those folks would be that's in the game, professionally are releasing music, and who can get the invitation of 2 professional invites from 2 people that are already in this society. Like, you have all of these different layers that kind of keep certain genres or certain age brackets out of this situation.
That's another thing I was going to say. Because if you have a board of 40 plus year olds, you know, and they're at a certain mature level, there's only going to be certain music that they naturally gravitate to.
Right.
You know, that may not be necessarily popular, But when they get in their car, when they go home, when they're in their circles, these are the records that they listen to. These are the content. These are the things that they talk about. So when you have a young artist, 18-year-old, 20-year-old, rapping about something that maybe they've done back in the days, maybe they're not gonna necessarily vote for that. They're not gonna feel compelled to champion that young person because they're not saying anything of value.
Right.
So that's another piece. When they're looking for who we're going to give an award to, they may feel, okay, I'm a 43-year-old or I'm a 44-year-old person, and this is what I like. I don't like this kind of music. So when I put in my vote, I'm voting for what I like. And
that's what I think. I think too, and this is not to take away from some of the great music that won, because some great music really did win, and you can hear it, and it goes back to what you also say is that your ears have to be trained. Like you have to be trained in this business, and it takes time, and you have to be around great musicians, great producers, great songwriters to understand what it takes to write and make great music. Like some people get in the booth and get lucky.
Yeah,
they do their best imitation, and then they've never been around the process of what it takes to make a great record or to work with great artists. So I think that's also missing in this situation, and we've been talking about this forever. But I really want to, as we start to, get more guests on the pod, and as we start to talk to more of those music guys, because I think that's what people are going to see the difference at, is there are people that have been in this business that are really responsible for some really great artists that people just do not know about. And I don't think I don't think that should be.
But most important that you're saying that they're not aware of the backstory.
Yeah.
What it took, the connections, who spoke to who networked with who, like how did that happen and how important those things are in order to create this music. You can't just, and again, like you said, some people have got lucky. You get in the booth and they just say anything, but that's not a recipe for success.
Not long term, at least.
Yeah, not for long term. You may get lucky once or twice, and maybe even 3 times. But if you want to stay in this business, and in any professional level, if you want to do anything, you got to study your craft. You got to practice. You got to carve out some time and really work at it. And there's no such thing as just, okay, I'm just talented, so I could just do anything. No, you got to take that raw talent and you got to mold it. You got to shape it into the direction. And that's when you become really powerful, And too many people are just getting in the booth and just hearing the beat
off of the top of the head, whatever sounds good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's funny because when I look at that too, J. Cole got this new project coming, the Fall Off.
Uh-huh.
Who's he talking about? Right? Who's he talking about? And you had a lot of rappers that came out in the last 5 to 6 years that had good little 5-year runs, 3 to 5 year runs.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't put out an album now to save their life.
Yeah.
And they were popping. You couldn't tell the world that they were trash. You couldn't tell the world that that someone pushed a button on them. That social media button that said, that's that social media go button. Folks don't think that exists, but we know better that there is a social media go button that puts you everywhere and it inflates your influence.
And the worst part of it all is that this music business will have its way with you and then spit you out.
Spit you out.
It'll literally take everything you have, and you'll go on this run and this high. And if you're not prepared, if your business is not set up properly, you could come out worse than when you came in.
This episode of the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast is brought to you by our own ebooks, the Songwriter's Guide to Song Registration, the Musician's Guide to Music Copyrights, the Musician's Guide to Music Publishing, and the Ultimate Guide to Forming Your Own Music LLC. All of these books are really essential for artists, producers, musicians to really learn how to navigate the music industry and how to really make a living off of your art. So just make sure you go pick those up. Those are available at arkatechbeatz.com. We're going to put a link in the description, and thank you guys for supporting.
You know, you could come out not only broke, but mentally you could be destroyed, you know, with a bad drug habit, in debt, you know. So you may actually come into this game one way and come out the game, leave the game worse than ever, you know. I read something recently about Bobby Shmurda, how much the record label made off of that hit record that he had, right. And compared, like, they made millions, and I think Bobby only made like 200,000 or some low number like that. And when you look at the difference, when you look at what the label makes versus what he makes, and it's just you just can't help shaking your head like, wow, you know. You start thinking about all the other artists that's in that same boat that came in on a hot record and have so much potential and have talent, and, you know, because of the business, that they didn't get, you know, their fair share, in my opinion, because that is a large space between like 200 grand, millions.
You have to really look at the dynamic of that record, because that record is a YouTube rip from another person's record, right? And then it's really, again, it's really one of those things that just happen to get put together and happen to go viral. Like, people can't, you
a
can't,
viral moment.
Yeah, you can't take that. You know, some people can turn that into careers. Most people can't. Like, most people can't take that viral moment and turn it into a career because they don't know why it went viral.
Mm.
They don't know. Like, most folks say, hey, this video did X amount of views, and they don't know why. Like, some people don't know why. It's like, so it's different when you start to really pull back the layer of a content creation situation, and you start to really look at it and say, okay, I need to put this type of video, this type of thumbnail, this type of music, and you make a production like if you're a Mr. Beast type of person, right? And he has a formula to where all of his stuff can go viral, period. Right. So now anything he puts out, he knows is going to get 100 million views without even blinking. Most artists, and you and I have been in a room with artists who have been super successful, sometimes don't have a clue.
Yeah, especially if they don't have the same team that was with them from day one. And they still don't have a clue. Maybe
Right.
It's the team. Maybe it's the team effort collectively that helped. And, you know, if you don't, again, we always say the importance of having a strong team and having people who specialize in certain areas of the game.
Yep.
You know, because the artist, and I really feel strongly about this, the artist needs to be able to concentrate on their craft. They really need to soak up that time and energy in the craft. And of course, you know, making sure that they know the business, of course. But without that product,
I would say, so let's backtrack. When you say the artist needed to have a good team,
mm-hmm.
like, let's expound on that, because I think we talk about that good team. When we had Chad Focus on, he said that he was saying something very similar. Shout out to Chad Focus. And he was saying something similar, like, put together the team. You got a bunch of people who should be focusing on certain aspects of your business.
Yeah.
And then when you're creating your music, you need a team for that as well. And I think that's part of the reason why artists like Drake are so successful. Let me backtrack a little bit. I'm sorry. I saw an interview on the Matt Hoffa, shout out to them, with Sci-Hi, shout out to him as well. And he made a very interesting point. He said, how does an artist like myself and my producer and my engineer make songs that can compete with a person who's doing a whole team of songwriters working on a record?
That's a fair question. That's a fair question. I think as an artist, you just have to do you. I don't think you should focus on those things. Like when you ask those questions, it actually is stifling.
Yeah.
It handicaps you right away. The same way just now we were just like, it does that. And I think as an artist, you just got to go in your bag and just create. You just have to lock yourself in a room and not pay attention to what's going on out there at the moment and just get it out, do what you got to do. And then you go outside and see what's going on. You got to get it out. Like you got to create. You got to lock yourself in and get the writing. You got to go in, create, get creative, especially what's dope with real artists and real creative people is their limitations. When you're limited, you're able to find really creative ways of making it happen. You're able to do things that you normally, when we first started producing, I'll give you an example. And we had our digital, we had a digital SO1 Akai sampler, right? And each bank will give you about, I can't remember exactly the number, but let's say each bank gave you 5 to 6 seconds worth of sampling time. Let's just say maybe less.
I think in total it was 30 seconds.
The total I believe was 20 something. But the trick was if you turned the octaves down on each bank and sampled at a lower speed, you got a whole lot more sampling time. You then got 30 something. So it's those limitations that allowed you to be creative. It's those limitations that said, okay, I'm going to try something else to get what I need. And I think that's what real creatives got to lean in on. Just, okay, I'm limited in this. I'm going to find a crazy way to make this happen. Maybe I'm going to do this, or maybe I'm going to do that. Think about the SP1200. The reason why those drums were sounding like that was because there wasn't enough sample time. It was cutting the kick. It was cutting the edge of the snare tail. It was cutting it so that when you did it, that's how it gave that feel. So it's the limitations that can birth real creativity. So you have to just own that and then find dope ways of taking that to the next level.
Man.
So to answer your question, like about how do I compete, you just get in your bag and you do you. Like it doesn't make sense for you to be staring at the person and complaining about what they got. That's all that's going to do is mentally jam you up. You just say, okay, they got what they got. I'm going to make what I got. What I got. I'm going to make this thing do what it do.
And over time, if you need to build up, you can build it up. Yeah, and I think that's really what is the telltale sign of maturity and saying, okay, I did this much things by myself, and over time now, if the resources are there, you start to add on to your fold, and you start to put more people into the bag, because I think when people look at a run like Drake or J. Cole, I don't see it ending.
Yeah, but also it's not something that happened overnight.
No,
You know
no,
what
no,
I'm
no, no,
saying?
no, no. Definitely not that. But I see
It's built.
these guys not making the mistake, and even Kanye West, they're not making the mistake of our yesteryear artists would make, which is I have to exclusively do everything myself. I think when you are at the highest level and you have access to resources, and we've said this a long time, we've been always on this. You're artist ABC, you have access to the best producers and songwriters in the world because in some cases these guys' budgets were unlimited, or if you remember that,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and they wouldn't utilize it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it. So when you see a Drake co-writing with all of these folks to make sure that he gets the best type of record, that's what it is. If you see a J. Cole that's collaborating internally, to make the best records, because even now I see him doing a lot more collaborations. Kanye West, he's been on that for a long time, and I guess people didn't really understand why he needed to do that. But it was to make sure that the sound continued to evolve, and not only for cultural relevancy, but for sonic relevancy, and also to continue to grow. Like you gotta bring some of these new cats in, and kind of saying, okay, let me see what you guys are doing. Like we talked to Younglord last week, and he was talking about how he had the kid that he met off of Reddit that he paid to teach him how to use FL Studio. This is a a guy who's worked with the best artists in the world, but would still implement the help of a younger person and pay them to learn a new platform to expand his musical situation. So I look at that and say, this is what needs to happen in this business now. And then or we go back to the artist development situation.
But that's what this is, though. If you think about it, like when you have someone like Drake who has a team, or Kanye has a team, that's still artist development.
It is.
That's still like gatekeeping in a way. Yeah. That's all of that. That's A&Ring. Where you got people in the room saying yes, no, add this, do that. That's producing. That's all of those things, which is something that was lost.
It's gone because everybody has a home studio and they can lock themselves in their closet and like I said, do their best rendition of their favorite artist.
Right. So that's what's needed. So when people say, "Oh, he got 10 producers in the room," well, damn right. Like if you're trying to put out the best music in the world, then if that's your goal, then you need to pick the brains of like all the people you feel are successful or that has something can contribute to it. Like you think Beyonce and Rihanna, like they have teams. They have teams that get in there, write this, write that, no, fix this, fix that. No, you can't say this. Let's say this. Let's say it like this. Change that word. Boom, boom, boom. There's teams that go through this process to ensure that when it comes out, you're getting the best product. You as a consumer should be getting the best product. When you're going to go to the store to buy a shirt, a pair of pants, some sneakers, whatever it is you're buying, you're spending your money on, you want to make sure you're getting the best product for your buck. And I don't think that should be any different when it comes to music.
I agree. I think a lot of folks just feel like that's too much. But the ones who have these careers that last, that really stand the test of time, that's what's happening in the background. And folks need to understand that. And really, this whole artist development situation and getting with someone who can actually mentor you and who can actually help you, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And that was what stood out to me in terms of artist development and mentorship with the Younglord interview. Mm-hmm. And I again, because he is from my side of town,
right?
And I remember when I was starting my studio situation, because he's slightly younger than I am, mm-hmm. And I was starting my studio situation, and I remember having my studio up, and then I remember it traveling through the neighborhood that he had gotten signed. And I look at the difference in someone who may have had that mentorship versus you and I having to do everything on our own and not having a producer or someone who is a P. Diddy to come and say, don't do it like this, do it like this.
Right.
Like that's volumes, that can help to springboard and get you to where you needed to go much, much faster than you trying to kind of find out, okay, well, let me figure this out. Let me work through this.
But the dope thing also of, our role is that at least we may not have had that, but we had each other to kind of bounce things off of, and kind of level things out. So I do think in this game you need somebody that you could always bounce something off of. And, again, that's the role of an A&R. Those are the roles of your production team or co-writers and producers. You want to bounce things off and make sure that what you're doing and saying and putting out there is the best reflection of your work, and a lot of times, I used to listen to demos at the label, and, artists would come in and be like, yeah, my shit is hot. My joint is hot. I'm this, I'm that. And then you're like, you could tell that you didn't bounce this off of anybody. You didn't sit down with a team and they didn't tell you this ain't it. Why are you rapping like this? Why do you sound like this? Why are you off the beat? Why did you choose this beat? Why does your drums so low that you can't even, like, why does it sound like this? Why is the production like this? You didn't have someone to say, no, this ain't it. This ain't the best presentation. This isn't the best you. And you need something like that. You need a person in your corner to tell you the truth, no matter if you don't want to hear it, and on the flip side of it, as a creative, you should be open to those things. You should be open to the criticism. And when you're taking the criticism, you really have to evaluate it and make sure that it's something that is worthy of applying. So it does go two ways also.
It's funny because you talk about like the tapes, and I remember you bringing all of the music that didn't get released yet because you had all the promo stuff. And what people don't realize is that back then, whatever you got as a promo was probably recorded a year prior, right? We could be talking about. So I remember having to listen to the stuff that you brought out as promo that we already know that was recorded a year prior. Then there was stuff that you would bring through from guys that were shopping their music and producers that were coming through basically trying to get their songs placed. And then that now was the music that was supposed to come out the next year, right? Because now this is the future coming out and this is the stuff that's already out. It's really the past. And then us now trying to find what's going to be that next sound in the middle as producers. And I don't think people give producers enough credit when it comes to that because we have to decide what the future looks like for music. Yeah. Like we have to make that decision. We have to say, okay, this is what's jumping now, but what's going to be jumping next year? Yeah. What's going to last for the next 10 years? So it's literally like you have to make a song. You have to be a futurist and trying to make a record or make sounds and things that are going to be played for the next 10, 15, next generation. So some of these guys were really futurists and making songs that are still playing 20, 30 years later. Yeah. Like, you got to really think about that. But I just remember us researching, and I remember us listening to that and listening to how this guy's drum sound or how this guy's snare was hidden or this where the mix was. And it was hours and hours and dare I say hundreds of hours. Yeah. Like really listening and studying music. And I don't think that happens now. Like, I don't think that happens at all. I think that's just, I can get a kick from this guy that sounds like this. I can get this from this person that sounds like this. And I can put this setting and that sound like that person. And there's nothing that needs to go into that because I've gotten everything to emulate everybody else. So I've never really developed myself. I never developed what I need to sound like as an individual artist.
Wow, yeah. And because of that, I think goes back to the other argument that I've been having podcast after podcast of why the regions sound all blended in. Like no region has a distinct sound outside of an artist's accent, you know. But as far as
that's real.
As far as the actual music, like the music that's being played in New York, those same beats can be played. It could be in the South, Midwest, and even LA. You know, it kind of just goes across the board. And I do think that, you know, again, back to A&Ring, back to the gatekeepers, I think because there's a lack of that, it sort of is a free-for-all. Additionally, in this era of do-it-yourself, where you can now upload your music and just send it right to the distributors, and there's nobody to say, no, you can't put that out. You know, there's no A&R, there's no gatekeeper to say, no, that joint is trash, or no, that's hurting the culture. No, you can't do this. You know, because there's none of that, then it's sort of a free-for-all. It's sort of like do what you want. And, you know, I think Kanye even, you know, made a joke about it by putting out that Poop City Scoop record. You know, you could just put out anything, and it's able for people to hear it and be able to go out there. And there's enough ignorant people in the world to support it that it will become something. But we need to, I think, get back to stopping it from the beginning. Like that don't need to go out. That's as a collective, we're all here. That's not it. You're talented, but this is not what needs to go out. Let's go back in and let's figure this out. Let's create something. Let's get this producer. Let's get this writer. Let's coach you. Let's get you to a point that you need to get to in order to put out the best representation of you. And that is not happening.
Remember, the other part of it is a lot of us have taken the mindset that let the market decide.
Mm-hmm.
So remember what we used to say. Remember when we were working with our artists and we were doing all type of different things and we would say, hey, that's not it.
Mm-hmm.
We would be that final, no, it's not going out or whatever.
Right.
But now you can take it to the market. You can put it out, and if people rock with it, then it gets shared and it gets commented and it gets engagement. And that now is considered the barometer, not the music man or the people with the ears. Like we used to be the barometer, but now folks want to test it on the market. And if the market responds to it, and remember the market responds two ways. The market responds to things that are really kind of strange, shock value, or really, really, really good.
Right. So it doesn't tell you what the market does not tell you is the difference. Yeah. Why a person is clicking this record? Why is this person liking this record? Why is this person playing this record? Is it because they like it? Or is it because they're so disgusted and they can't believe that it's like a car wreck and they can't believe that this is what's happening and they're just in disbelief and they're sharing it with their friends because do you see this craziness? Do you see this nonsense? Look what's happening to society. You believe this? And then they share that. I can't believe this. Oh my God, this is horrible. Let me share this with this person. And then it becomes popular, but it's not popular because people love it and enjoy it, embrace it. It's popular with 1 million views and it's shared because it's freaking trash. So it's when you're sitting at these A&Rs are sitting at their tables in the offices and they're looking at that kind of data and they're not hitting the streets to get the actual word, they're not going to be able to know the difference. And I'm going to tell you that kind of success does not last. That shock value alone does not last. You need something that's going to have some stability, something with some what my guy Scott Free used to always say when it comes to music, some meat and potatoes. That's
This joint is like a false positive, man. Like that's really what we're looking at. We're looking at it being like you said, so bad that it's people. The engagement is like disbelief.
Right.
It's crazy, bro. Like I can't really speak on it enough. Like I look at this whole situation and I look at the game and I say, okay, it's coming back around. And I think what's happening now is that you're seeing good music come back around, but also, we have to get back to music, guys. And I think that's really what I would hope, what I want our listeners to see in the future, that we're going to start bringing back some of these music guys that are responsible for a lot of things that you're not really familiar with. And we have to really start challenging the industry. Like, where are the music guys? They need to be in these positions.
Mm-hmm.
What this Grammys has basically told us is that age is not the factor. Age isn't the factor. The music guys who are responsible, who had the ears to give us the artists of the previous generations that are still doing it now, are still the same guys that can basically pick your artist today. And you and I have been, in our career, we have been able to always identify the next one.
Yeah, before the labels even pick them up.
Before the labels pick them up.
Yeah,
and we already got records on them. So what does that really say for our acumen in terms of being able to choose a talent? Yeah, because there's been a lot of records that we've got produced with artists very, very early, and no one was like, "Who is this?" Okay, you'll see. And you give it 3 to 5 years.
Boom, record deal.
Boom. This person Grammy nominated. This person, boom. This, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Doesn't happen overnight. Yep. It doesn't happen overnight, but that's the situation. You have to be able to see and say, okay, this person has something, and what do they have? And you got to be able to develop that, and identify that as an A&R.
It's just I just really wish that there were more of those type people that was coming forward. And also, I don't want to make it seem like it's just it's an old OG thing. I think it's also the responsibility of the great A&Rs to make sure that they put on the next generation of A&Rs, not just artists, but A&Rs, executives, and kind of just grooming them, showing them the ropes. And this is what we're looking for. We're not going to just run along with the trends and the fad, but they got to be cut from a certain cloth. They gotta. It's almost like A&R's got to tell you, okay, who allowed you to be in that spot? Where you know what I'm saying? Like, where did you get your credentials to be in that spot in order to make those records and make those decisions? It's almost like we need to trace where you came from for you to be here dictating, gatekeeping, and saying what's hot and what's not. Like, who gave you your stripes? Who gave you a credential? Who gave you the thumbs up? Like, as if like this is a mafia kind of situation, and then you move forward. You go from there. Like, the next generation of A&Rs need to push forward and continue making sure that the right artists are getting their just due, that they're putting out the best product and pushing the culture forward.
That's real.
Yeah, just some producer talk.
Some producer talk. Some different game. Talk.
That's what today is.
Yeah, like I think again, we got some new guests coming up. So, I want people to really stay tuned to that. Also pay attention to, we got the Arkatech Beatz musician guide newsletter. So that's definitely out. if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter where we're giving out the tips and we're telling people how to do certain things in the music industry, it's really going to be a lot hands-on so that you can kind of start to really learn the nuances of the things that have to be done behind your music to help to protect and monetize it. So definitely want to pay attention to that. Is there anything else happening in there right now?
So something about fraudulence. That says something about Universal something detecting fraudulent.
Whatever. They said they bought a stake in the company that's supposed to be detecting the fraudulent situation. Like, yeah, you bought the take so you can avoid the technology.
Yeah, yo, that's hilarious.
Like these guys are jokers, you know. And then also, you know, this week too, Mike, you know, we had the singer-songwriter Tiffany Red, and she was talking about how people were taking credit for her music. And they didn't help write the song, but they were getting credit on the music. And I touched on this a little bit on TikTok.
Be clear. Explain to those who haven't seen what exactly is.
Okay, so the gripe is, and this is, you know,
who is she?
I want everybody to realize, like, listen, this is a top tier singer songwriter. She writes for Beyonce, Rihanna, Zendaya, Tamar Braxton. Like, this is not a person who is a lightweight in terms of writing songs.
Right.
We get that. I want people to understand that. We have to give this person their credit. Miss Tiffany Red, right? She has a problem, though, with the fact that people are coming in for a portion of her songwriting credit or her production credits that didn't participate in the making of the song. And you know, and I know as producers and songwriters, we make a song or we make a track, we present it to the artist, and the artist has to make the decision if they want this song to be part of their musical, quote unquote, album collective.
Right.
Point blank, period. What I want our audience to know is that for every album, you have to look at every album as an income opportunity. When an album comes out, it generates money. It generates album sales, licensing, sync licensing, performance royalties, so forth and so on. So the artist puts this music out, this music starts to generate income. The artist has to make a decision whose songs get on this album.
Out of these 50 songs, out of these 100 songs.
I have X amount of songs for this album, 10 songs. Who is going to join me in this income generation train?
Right? It is guaranteed, especially high-level artists, big names. You know when they come out,
it's going to do numbers.
It's going to do numbers. Guaranteed.
You know this and I know this. So here you come now. You have your song. I can pick a song from anybody in the world now. Let's be clear. Like we said earlier, Kanye made that Poop Diddy Scoop song. He could put anything out. He could take a song or beat from anyone.
Right.
Put it out and it'll generate income. I like your song. I record your song. I put it on my album. I'm giving you now access to publishing because your song can't earn any money if it's not released. Point blank, period.
Right.
Your song is going to be on your demo. It's going to sit on your phone. It's not going to earn any money if I don't put it out. So I put this money out. Now your song begins to earn income. You don't think that there's a cost for you to get into the income opportunity store?
Yeah.
There's a cost.
Especially on that level.
Somebody has to get a piece of that income back. So call it a tax. Call it a tariff, right? Paying a due. But they're going to take a portion of that song, especially at the highest level. We're not saying everybody does it, but some people do. And the question is, I'm going to generate millions of dollars for you. Because if you have a Beyonce single that hits or goes number one like the country song just did, this generates millions of dollars of revenue in perpetuity. This will earn money for the rest of your life. So why shouldn't this person who's giving you this type of opportunity not take a kickback on that?
But the funny thing is she really expects that a big artist shouldn't make any money on that end. should not get a credit. It's their record.
It's their
They're
record.
who
They
they
still
are.
have to, and they still have to perform it.
They have to perform it. You think they're going to give you the whole thing? I remember being in a room. I'm not going to say the artist. I remember being in the room and them saying, "Nah, we can't give them the whole thing." The whole thing?
No.
And the artist gets nothing? Nah.
No. There's no way.
Gotta get kickback. Gotta put something in a pot. Need a percent. They gotta go back to the artist. The artist needs a share because they're the ones making the record. So if the artist takes that stance at that high level, can you be mad if they took a 10%? When you're getting 90? Making millions? Like, this is some real,
I listen, I understand. Like, I understand. I want all of the credit. I did it. I did the work. I did the heavy lifting. I get it. Like, I really do. I do get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't think that there's a cost if you have a product to go on the shelf in Walmart? You think Walmart will just let you take your ketchup brand or your spice and just put it in their stores? You don't think there's a process in the payment? Or they have to get a portion of those earnings, right?
You don't think there's some backdoor dealings going on to make sure that your product is placed in the right spot?
Thank you.
So that when they walk into Walmart, your product is the first one seen?
Thank you.
They start shaking hands.
Thank you. Somebody has to pay for that access. This doesn't happen by itself.
There's too many people competing for the same spot.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's called the price of doing business.
I like that.
It's that simple. And the worst part of it, like, you're acting like it took 50%. You're acting like it took the 80%.
Or 90%.
Or the whole thing.
Right.
Which
they
some
didn't.
People can do. But like someone of her caliber, and I get it because she's creative. So when you're a creative person, you take creativity very personal. Like, this is mine. I did this. I wrote this. I did this all by myself. I sat in the room. I was dealing with something personal at that time in my life. Maybe, my house is about to foreclose, or I had a messy breakup, or whatever the case may be. And this was my only way to channel the emotions that I was going through. I get it. And I took this piece and I was able to get it in that person's hands. And they took the record and made it huge, but they want 10% or 20%. I get it.
We have been there. Okay, like, we're not even telling the stories. Like,
we're not even telling like it's a third party.
We're telling the real story. We have been there. We have been there where we have gotten the tap on the shoulder and say, "Hey, you got to give a little bit of that back."
And that's fine, because what we got was way more than that.
Thank you.
Was way more.
And it's up to you to,
like, that's it?
Yeah. That's all you want to take it.
That's it? Yeah, let's do this. Because we getting this, that, and the third, and so forth. That's reasonable.
Yeah, take it. And I don't think enough people look at it in a longevity situation. Because now, going on social media and airing it all out, the rooms. You know what these rooms look like. People don't realize, like, when you start talking like that and trying to carry on your business in public like that, you are never getting back in those rooms. We don't care how hot your songs are. We don't care. We're not using you.
Yeah.
You're a headache. We're not using you. People don't realize it's not about how good your music is. It's about them damn relationships over time.
Yep.
People be thinking like, it's the person who has a mix of good music and good relationships.
Yeah, they gotta like you, man. They gotta like you.
Tell them, man.
They gotta rock with you. They gotta know you do good business.
Yeah.
Like good business will come back. Good relationships, they will continue to open doors. They will continue reoccurring business over and over again. We have people still calling us back for records because we did something that they've enjoyed or the business was so good in the past that they've been dealt with fairly, and that we went on and beyond to help them and ensure their position. That they've come back to us and say, you know what, I remember what you did back in so and so. I got something else going for you, going right now. I want you guys involved. And we try to make sure that whoever we're giving information to, whoever we're teaching or giving advice to ensure them, like, listen, you got to do good business. You got to do business because this business is small. Word gets around. And we've done business with people and we find out that they're doing bad business and we can't get them into certain doors because they have done bad business.
Yeah.
It's not going to fly.
Oh.
Do good business, treat people with respect. And if you got an issue, like, you take it up with those individuals and you handle it behind the scenes, man. Like, this airing out in the public,
that ain't changing nothing.
It ain't always gonna work out in your best interest.
No, it ain't gonna change nothing. I think what people should really pay attention to is they should pay attention to Ye, where even in some cases he had to make some apologies in order to get this music out and to get back into position. Yeah. Like, you can say what you want to say, but it has consequences.
It don't always work out, man.
Yeah, and you got to be ready to take those consequences. Yeah. Because I don't really think that she should have called those people out. I don't. I really don't. I think that if she's ready to say, okay, I don't need to work with them anymore, and I'm gonna put my own music out, and that's what I'm good with, then fine. You're fine with that. But for you to say that, to think that you're gonna get the power structure to change, to not take any credits, and not to take any of the income that they're generating, that's their income.
And at the same time, another question is, who's your lawyer? How was the paperwork handled? Did she do her part in securing things she needed to ensure the safety of her records and keeping them, the ownership and all of those things? Did she take the right business steps? I
don't know if those things are negotiable at that level, bro. And and I know that, because the money for the lawyers is all coming from the label's pot. So she
did say something about also that, people were put on or written, and I guess she had no idea of this, that, and the third, but, as a person in business, you should also always inquire and know what's going on. You should look at these paperwork. Whatever contract that comes to you, you should look at it and make sure you get a general understanding of what's going on. Yeah, things happen, surprises happen, but you need to make sure that you're signing the right paperwork. You're agreeing to things, and not coming back later and be like, I didn't want to do that, that, and the third. No, like, these records are gone. These records have been out for years for the most part, and they're gone, and now you want to come back with, like, buyer's remorse. Like, years later, what happened to all that money? What happened to all that money you made?
I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, these are big. Like when I was listening to her rattle off the names, and I said to myself, why would you want to air these people out? Like, why would you want to do this? Like, you're in these rooms already. Like, why would you want to do that? Like, if you notice that circle tends to go back to the same writers, right? Goes back to the Dream, to this person, you know what I'm saying? Like, they go back to the same writers because they know the Rico loves, they know who's going to give them the hits. Yeah. So if you're part of that circle, right? Because that's a very small circle of people that can say that they work with Beyonce. It's not a lot of producers that can say that, they're songwriters.
Right.
Why would you want to ruin that relationship by coming out saying she took the songwriter credit that she didn't deserve? What? What?
Yeah, that ain't it. You broke one of the golden rules.
Nah, dog, you don't do that. Like, no, you out there airing it out. Like, no, you ain't doing that. That's That's the dumbest shit I'd have seen in a long time. I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, like who told you? Like who told who told you? Like who told you to do this dumb shit? This is dumb to get on the internet and do this shit. And you think you're gonna get and you thought you were gonna get some sort of public support system?
Yeah, they turn her up in the comments.
Yeah, and then when I seen it got elevated to Hollywood Unlocked, and I saw that and I said, well, this guy doesn't really like Beyonce. So he wants to take this story to make it look like this is a bad person. You know what I'm saying? So he elevates the story, and he's elevating it to make it seem like this is a person that's doing all types of shady business. But when you really look at this shit, and when you're on this side, when we were working on our artist situation, and we have an album, and we say, hey, this guy, we want this guy to work with us. We breaking bread. Mm-hmm. Literally, if we got a budget and we pick your record, we're breaking the bread with you. You forget we could produce it ourselves?
Right. Yeah.
You forget that she could have wrote it herself?
Yeah.
She breaking bread with you. The only thing what you're supposed to do is say, hey man, if I gave you 5,000, hey man, here, take a grand back, man. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yo, I'm gonna say this publicly. Our first placement with Big Pun. Pun, keep that. That advance.
Hold it.
Keep that. How much you want for the beat, Mike? Keep that. No advance.
Yeah.
He looked at me and said, yo, Mike, I can't believe. Yo. Oh man, thanks. Yo, I appreciate you. He called Joe right away and told him. The deal went quicker.
Yep.
Not that the deal went quicker. And even that story was crazy because we had to get that record done over so many times. Mm-hmm. They could have easily been like, yo, there's too much problems with this on a technical level, because we were trying to get the record recorded. It was this studio, that story, problem with the equipment, it's just that and the third. And it just goes to show, man, like, you gotta when you get these opportunities and in your head you're like, I wanna be in this for the long haul. I wanna make sure I create good relationships. I wanna be here for a while. You gotta make some decisions of do I wanna do something now that can jeopardize that or not? You gotta say, yo, I could take the short now, but it's really the long later. You wanna take the whole thing now? And ruin these opportunities that's open up?
And then tell them the type of relationship now that we have with Pun, that put us on what album?
After that, it was like
Terror Squad album. We on that.
Terror Squad album, the second album, the B-side to the single.
Yeah.
And our relationship with Pun was just great, and not just because I was part of the A&R team with it, but we was able to it was just a growing relationship. I was on the skit on his album, and just so many things that opened up just off of that. Was able to work on other albums outside of that project, and just people hear that you're doing good business, or people hear that, oh, yo, I like the way they rock. There's a sense of dignity. There's a sense of you wanting to push this culture forward. People want to rock with people like that, And I'm not saying that in business you should be a pushover. I'm not saying that. There's a difference. There's a difference between being a pushover, and there's a difference between showing appreciation for the position that you've been given. And if you're ever blessed with a position, if you're ever blessed with an opportunity, show your appreciation. It'll go a long way. Look, I'll give you another example. And I've said this probably on the last podcast. When Gucci and Zaytoven were rocking, he kicks up Gucci, the success he was getting, he kicked something back to Zay.
Yep.
Yo, that's how you rock.
That's how he moved. And look what it did for the first part of his career. It cultivated a sound that anchored Gucci in Atlanta. It turned him damn near into a demigod out here. And people don't really realize at its height what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was crazy. The Gucci fervor was nuts because we were out here maybe like 2007, 2008, and the way that it was going, but he had cultivated this sound with Zay, and that was his backbone and his foundation. And not many artists had the wherewithal or was thinking in that level, like, this guy is anchoring my career. Let me take care of him. And that's what he did. And that helped to solidify that sound early in the beginning. And then he started to elevate his sound now by adding in more producers, more songwriters, different collaborations. And now Gucci had become that household national name that, you know, that was from regional success, but it comes back again from just doing that kind of good business with them.
We're talking business relationships and making the right decisions. Business relationships, making the right decisions. You know, the wrong decision could end your career.
It's real.
If you're being too prideful, if you're being too greedy, if you're not really recognizing the opportunity you have, if you're not being grateful for the individuals that decide to take the time out to work with you, like, you got to look at it and humble yourself. And, you know, when you're given these opportunities, because not everyone gets them. Not everybody gets the opportunity to work with the greats. So when you get these opportunities, you should be grateful for it. You know, you should say, all right, I'm here. I'm going to be humble about it. I'm going to get what I'm going to get. Yeah. But there's a certain respect that you got to have for these individuals that allow you to be in their presence, especially those that are considered great, who's been successful, who's given you opportunities. Like,
yes, to say the shit for real, icons.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about some of these people are icons, bro.
Them icons don't gotta get nothing.
Thank you.
To be honest,
that's really what I wanted to get to. They don't really got to give you shit.
Nothing. Not even nothing. They could
always say they can get it from anyone. They don't got to give you anything.
You still be great. You still be lucky if they even use your record.
Listen, that's what people don't seem to. They don't understand that.
So you can have that word of mouth. Do you know how, man, credits, those things get you through doors.
Word.
Those things get you through doors. We've made decisions on a number of occasions where the only up was the credit. And those credits allowed us to make, they were like credits for real because it allowed us to make deals based on those credits.
Tell them, bro.
Which is a double entendre.
They not really understanding like
the credits pretty much gave us loans to new situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did this for that person, but that allowed this deal to happen, and that deal to happen, and that label deal to happen, and working with this artist and that so and so.
Yep.
Got give and take, but you know, it's the decision is yours. How you want to move, you know. And the one thing I want people to take away from this is just be mindful of the type of business you're doing. Word gets around, and people will decide if they're going to rock with you or not. And this is the era of cancel. This is the cancel culture era.
It's real.
And the blackballing is real. And you can come into this game, run your mouth, and be out the game tomorrow. That easy.
No one wants to really talk about how that blackballing is real. And when people make a concerted effort and they put that APB out and say, hey, we don't rock with this person.
Yeah.
They ain't rock. They ain't taking your meetings.
Yeah.
Or they're going to give you they're going to leave you on red.
Yeah.
Or going to be a whole lot of other situations. And no amount of social media rants going to be able to change it.
Yo, that joint gets around. It's literally, this business is like a high school cafeteria. and I've said this before. Everybody's in high school in the cafeteria. They've got your different cliques. You know, people rock with each other, but when word gets out about one person, everybody's standing back.
Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks. Make sure that you're following us at Arkatech Beatz. Everything. Arkatech Beatz. All day, every day. And what we really hope is that people are paying attention. It's like these are the nuanced ways of managing and reading rooms and navigating the music business. Like, we don't, in our community, there's not enough social skills in dealing with that.
Right.
People are not really trained on how to exercise emotional intelligence when you're in a room of people that you looked up to or you have high reverence for. Like, you may act out in certain types of ways that are not really becoming and can ruin your networking opportunities. Or you can talk too much and talk your way out of a room.
Right.
You know, or talk your way out of a good situation because, you know, you didn't like what happened in this particular situation where we were just talking about because she didn't like how the business was being handled. You're not supposed to talk about that. Now, granted, if you know, but we've already kind of jumped on that.
Or if you want to talk about it, you don't talk about it in that malice way. You talk about it in a teaching way.
Teachable moments.
Teachable moments. Don't name names, and just, you know, you're doing it not in a malice way, but in a way where you're trying to show people that, look, the reality of the music business is that sometimes you're not going to get your full 100% in certain situations, you know. But you have to look at it from this side point of view and look at it from this point of view. Give your pros and cons. Speak for it from an educational level versus, you know, naming names. You're mad, you're ranting, you're raving. Now you burning the bridge. You know, you may not get another.
The whole thing on fire, boy.
You may not get another opportunity, not just from them, but from any other person who, you know, respects those same people. So
I agree with that because if from the outside looking in, if say I was an artist that really loved that music, I wouldn't even engage with that artist now. I would look at that artist and be like, nah. You know, I don't want her to badmouth me if she don't like something that happened.
Right.
You know, if something that she don't like happens in the session, she gonna air out all my business too. So it's like, nah, negative. We don't even want to deal with that at all. That's what you're going to have to deal with, man. You know what I'm saying? But it's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks. I need you to look out for us. We got some special guests coming up. So definitely look out for that. You know, we want to thank everybody that's been rocking with us. Everything's been growing really, really nicely. We appreciate those that's been rocking with us, folks who have been, you know, supporting what we're doing. And, you know, we're doing it for the people, you know, and at the same time, you know, we thank people for supporting us at the same time. So we appreciate that. But until next time.
Peace.
Peace, everybody. Be safe out there.